Hey everybody, it's Muffin and welcome back to another video. Patch 12.18 has been out for about a week now, and I thought I'd go over some of the comps that I've been playing that I think have been a lot of fun. As well as after I go over some of the strongest comps that you can play this patch, I want to talk about some of the strategies or some of the major things I've felt this patch that I think will help you win games. Kind of like item starts and tempo, how I've been feeling about things like that. So the first board I want to talk about is the Sohm Lagoon Mages board. A lot of people started playing this towards the end of last patch, realizing that we don't really care about Sohm as the main carry. It's actually Nyla, and Nyla's kind of a Giga Chad when paired with Sohm, especially Zoe for some extra CC. And making two Sohm items early game can help you get to the late game, and then you just build Nyla items. You know, like an Edge of Night, Last Whisper IE, and Nyla will kill most of the enemy team. Sohm will kind of soften them up, and Nyla is going to be doing most of your damage, as well as Xayah will help stun half the team, and Seraphine is going to add a lot of shielding to our comp. Sohm items you really just want blue buffs, so they cast a whole bunch to get your Lagoon procs, as well as Morellos to apply it to the entire team. Because this is best in slot Sohm, you really don't need to build items like Sunfire Cape. This comp does benefit a lot from like ZZ Rots, mostly because there's not that much frontline, and whenever your frontline dies, they're going to turn around and attack Nyla. We really don't want that to happen, so being able to get aggro back onto the ZZ Rots is very powerful and helps keep your Nyla alive as long as possible, while Sohm is just stacking Morellos on the entire enemy team, and Xayah stunning their backline. Another reason this comp is very strong is because it has a very easy tree. Nyla and Sohm being your two main carries have very clear item holders early on in the game. Sohm can be held very easily by Taliyah, and a 2-star Taliyah does actually a whole bunch of damage, and Nyla can easily be item held by just a Zeri. They hold these items very well, as well as they're not very expensive to find. Zoe you're not going to find till later, so this is kind of just like a very easy to make level 6 comp. And even before you get to this stage, Taliyah doesn't even need mage to do a whole bunch of damage, and this will easily allow you to get to level 6 or level 7. So you start off stage 4 with 2 bruiser frontline and trying to get in Lagoon as soon as possible, so that Taliyah is stacking as much as she can. If you're able to fit in mage at level 5, I would. Like if you already have a Silas and you find like a Lilia, I would put in mage first. However, if you don't find mage first, Xayah is perfectly fine. This will get you Whisper, which will help you kill your front line a little bit more often. So even without mage, Taliyah will be able to kill a lot of the enemy team, and you'll save a lot of HP this way. And then at level 6, you can throw in mage. Level 7, you can throw in Seraphine. Zeri's not too important, and honestly, the itemization's not crazy either. Zeri's not too important, so I would almost even take out Zeri 2 the second that you find Nyla. And Nyla just likes raw AD items. If you have a lot of ZZ Rots, you don't have to worry about Edge of Night on your Nyla. However, if you do not have these ZZ Rots, you really do need Edge of Night, and then you just put raw AD items on her. I don't really put in Sohm at level 7. I'd much rather carry a Taliyah 2 into a level 8, and then roll down and try and 2-star my Sohm and Nyla all at the same time at level 8, just because it's a little bit more consistent, as well as you don't have to take anything out to try and fit in Sohm awkwardly, especially because the Sohm 1's not even that much of an upgrade. You'd almost just rather to keep the Taliyah in, because she does decent damage, especially with mage, and Nyla's really your endgame carry. Once you hit level 8, you can't put Sohm with blue buff, Morellos, and honestly any other AP item. JG's pretty good, and then you're just going to try and find a Zoe to fit in as your third mage. This comp feels very strong in the current meta, especially because Nyla without aggro feels almost impossible to kill, especially if you have something like Thrill of the Hunt. Nyla will slowly just kill the entire enemy team and never be aggroed long enough to take damage. Another reason this comp is powerful is based off of whatever units you hit, you can actually tech into one of the other S tier comps a lot of people are playing, and that's the Seraphine Cannoneer board. And you'll notice this uses a lot of the same kind of itemizations. Graves has very similar items to Nyla. The only major difference in this comp is that you want a Shojin instead of a blue buff here on your Seraphine, and then you just spam Zeke's Heralds on your Zeri, and you almost don't need frontline items at all, just because Seraphine, especially if you're able to 3-star, is going to add so much shields to this frontline, and Graves getting the on-hit magic damage from Seraphine is going to do so much damage to the enemy board that it's not even going to matter. You'd ideally try and pivot into this comp if you're just getting a ton of Seraphines, or maybe you weren't able to make a blue buff. You can almost use the exact same opener as the Lagoon board. The main difference is you're going to want to pivot to Zac 2, though this shouldn't be too hard to find because you're going to slow roll at 7. And if you started off with 2 bruiser frontline, you can easily just replace the Malphite with a Zac 2, and especially if you find yourself Rakan. A lot of the comps this set really revolve around the fact that Xayah is a menace and stuns half the enemy team every couple of seconds. Rakan is a menace and really punishes grouped up units, and everyone's going to group around this Zac. And Graves is a menace because he just does on hit against an entire like 5-shot spread of the enemy team, and Seraphine just amplifies all of those traits through her shielding and on-hit magic damage. This also benefits from having the 2 Mystic, so you can even in a way, if you get like a bunch of items, also just run the Xayah, the AD Xayah build that a lot of people are running. It's not as great because you only have 2 Whisper in right now, but it is possible if you have just a bunch of excess items that you don't know what to do with, and it's the difference between making a Runons on a Pantheon or a Xayah. This comp is pretty strong, and you can just slow roll at 7 trying to find your Seraphine 3. However, if your Seraphine is contested, Seraphine 2 is actually perfectly fine. 2-starring this board is perfectly fine at level 7. You go to level 8, and maybe you can find yourself a Bard or a Yasuo, someone who's going to be able to add a lot more CC or longevity to your comp. Blue buff that sucker, and then here you're going to sit at 8, hopefully wait for all the enemy teams to die, and eventually you'll be able to get that Seraphine 3 when it gets to like the top 3 or so. Another comp that I think is pretty strong is the 4 Scalescorne Olaf build. I think a lot of people have fallen out of favor of using this just because AP is really strong right now, but I think that if you maintain uncontested, this is a really strong build. And I almost wouldn't call this an Olaf build. It mostly focuses on Diana because its Ionic Spark is really the only thing that wins you this game. Olaf may do most of your damage for most fights, but a lot like the Sohm board, Olaf kind of softens everyone up while Diana is going to kill most of your high value targets. You're going to use her to target most of your enemy backline units, your Sohms, your Xayahs, and so getting her 3-star is almost more important than Olaf, and making sure she at least has this Ionic Spark and like a Titans or something is very important. And I would almost never sell Diana's to 3-star Olaf, and because of that I do like throwing the Qiyana in over, I know a lot of people throw like Hecarim in here. Qiyana's just really good CC units. Also, once you go level 8, you can kind of throw in any Tempest unit and kind of get a lot of value out of that, like Elise and Kick is very valuable. As well as that stun, it can really reduce the strength of one of Xayah's pullbacks. It can set now Shin behind a couple of seconds. Tempest is really strong in this comp, in my opinion. You're going to want to run 4 Scalescorne, and you only really care about 2 Warrior with Pantheon and Silas getting you Whisper. Olaf and Diana are going to want to be on the side of Pantheon. Even though Scalescorne gives you extra bonus magic damage, getting the extra armor shred is pretty valuable. So pretty much your main positioning is you can like swap sides and hope that your Qiyana will just stun the enemy team if you are on wrong sides. But if you're right side, then you're going to be able to destroy the enemy team. The cool thing about this comp is now that your main priority is on Diana, you don't have to sack Olaf early. In fact, I almost wouldn't care about Olaf at all if you have him like 2-star or something. Here's some footage of me playing an Olaf game where my entire start was playing like a Wukong 2. A lot like Talia, you can just have any warrior really replace Olaf until you get him 2-starred. As well as it allows you to tech in a lot of early game synergies that help out a lot. Olaf's pretty weak until you get him fully itemized, so running early Jade's not terrible. At level 6, this is a pretty strong board. You can even replace like Wukong with like a Yone if the Mirage is good, and you can fit in like a Leona for better frontline. The idea is building a really good Diana items, and any excess items you just put on Yone or any warrior type unit. As you level up, throwing in any 2-stars that you find, and slowly working towards your 4 Scalescorne build. Sometimes Olaf may need healing, but you would prefer to get it from augments like Celestial's Blessing or Thrill of the Hunt. Being able to kill the enemy team quickly is kind of like the strength of this entire comp. So Diana getting on the enemy carry, and then Olaf cleaning up the rest of the team. So full damage items tends to be a bit better if your augments are able to supplement this, but because Olaf items come second, you can decide later into the game, maybe towards Treasure Dragon, you'll find whatever you need. If Olaf's dying a whole lot, maybe you put a healing item on him. Next up is Ragewing Xayah, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with at this point. This is still quite strong in the meta, even though 6 Ragewing got nerfed just a tad. Hecarim still wants Protector's Vow. Most of your tank items go here on Jayce. Any AP items that you can find just go on Shyvana. She really likes like Ionics and Morellos. And all your AD items go on Xayah. There's nothing really new to this comp. The only thing is that it's really important to play pretty aggressively, and Xayah items are not super important. And in the early game, I actually wouldn't stress Xayah items too much. Most of my early game, I'm going to be carrying with Twitch, with some kind of Rageblade, Runons, Giant Slayer mix-up. Xayah's just going to help do some bonus damage at this point. At level 7, you can kind of just throw in anything. Ezreal is an okay item holder, but I do vastly prefer Twitch. He gets the extra guild bonus, and remaking him is almost never hard at all. Probably one of the most uncontested champions in the set. As well as once you do find your Xayah, he can still hold the Runaan's Hurricane really well and do a decent amount of damage with it. And you can just build any third item that you want for your Xayah, and you don't have to be committed to this Runaan's forever. This is still a really great item here on Twitch because it gets the extra AD from Jayce, gets the extra attack speed and extra HP from Sejuani. So Twitch actually does quite a bit in the late game comps as well. So I do like having this item for him, and helps kill a little bit of frontline a little bit faster earlier on, and help keep Xayah safe in case like of assassins or just anything like that. So I really do like carrying Twitch early game. Hecarim doesn't really like tank items at all other than this Protector's Vow, just to give it to Jayce. just to give the extra tank stacks to your Shyvana and your Jayce. Sejuani and Rakan are going to use them a little bit, but it's mostly just for these 2 units. And I would almost never roll for the Xayah unit on 7. I would almost always carry with this Twitch 2 in order to go level 8 and roll all of my gold down to try and find Xayah and another Twitch 2, as well as hope that I can find a Shyvana 1. And being able to 2-star all this board except for Shyvana is actually going to keep you quite strong, and you can just econ, especially if you save a lot of HP early game by just carrying with the Twitch. Twitch is one of the best early game carries for Xayah, and yeah, there's nothing too crazy about this comp. I just really like Twitch as an early game carry, and if you do find a bunch of Twitches, Twitch actually can be your end game carry as well. The main difference that you do there is instead of putting in Shyvana, you'll find yourself a Zippy. You'll leave the items on Twitch, and instead of itemizing your Xayah and whatever the other Swiftshot you have, you'll start giving Zippy some items, and he's going to be your second carry. But yeah, this comp has been around for a long time. I'm sure people are tired of talking about it. So the last comp I really wanted to dive into is the Dragonmancer board. There is a board you may have seen around where you reroll Kaisa. This is largely based around the idea that Kaisa casts pretty much every second, especially if she's being targeted. Though I'd only say it's pretty good if you have some kind of reroll augment or healing, kind of like Celestial Blessing. This is because most of your team is going to die pretty quickly. A Dragonmancer is all about putting all the energy into one champion, but Kaisa will be able to almost never stop casting. Her damage really comes in her late casts that do so much damage from having additional shots. So if she's not able to ramp up into the games, she doesn't exactly one-shot the entire board. She kind of has to whittle them down slowly. So healing is really great, especially once she does finally get targeted. She'll never stop casting pretty much. This is especially good if you find like a Dragonmancer conference or even 2 more Dragonmancer emblems, as the buff from 8 Dragonmancer is kind of insane. But what I really wanted to talk about with Dragonmancer, what do you do with the Dragonmancer emblem now since there's no Dragonmancer Nunu anymore? And my answer for that is probably like run like an early game carry, maybe like a Lilia. I haven't tried it. I've seen people run Sejuani. This sounds terrible, but I've seen people talk about it. Some kind of early carry that does a lot of damage, or maybe you can even just hold it on a unit and Dragonmancer you're like your Lee Sin. Generally in these comps, you still want like an IE on a Lee Sin anyways, and you just Dragonmancer someone random, and you'll use this to go fast 8 or fast 9. And the 2 ideal candidates that I have for late game carries are actually Jayce or Shyvana. Jayce's spell scales really well with the high AP that you get from Dragonmancer, especially if you're able to 2-star everyone, or even 3-star like your Lee Sin and your Volibear. As well as say you don't have Shyvana in, if you just have a shifter in, he's going to get 50% bonus HP. He's going to get 50% bonus of the HP that he gets from the Dragonmancer, which is already going to be like 1,000 some odd. So his HP is going to be insane. Plus he has built-in healing, so you don't even have to necessarily go with like a Bloodthirster. I've done like Archangel's Giant Slayer, and this Jayce is going to be pretty consistent. And if you're able to 2-star this, you might be able to even go 9, replace a Snar with your Shyvana. And if you're able to 2-star Shyvana and find a replacement Jayce, or even just any other shapeshifter, then you can move the items over to your Shyvana and have a Shyvana that's going to do like 7,000 damage in her breath attack. And this is honestly what I was playing even when Dragonmancer Nunu was meta, because this could sometimes even beat Nunu, as well as it's able to wipe out a lot of boards if you're able to position your Shyvana correctly. I know there's a couple of other comps that people have been having success with, like Namzi Mage. Personally, have had 0 success with that comp. I've way more successful playing Dragonmancer like Shyvana or Jayce. That's been my personal experience, but I wanted to talk about a couple of things that I think about the patch and how I've been able to find decent success playing in this currently type of meta. Earlier on, it's pretty like helpful to like start off with like econ traits. So if you're able to get in like Astrals or something like that, this can help you econ decently into like stage 2. I don't mind doing this too much, though I've been kind of trying to avoid it unless it's trying to build into a specific type of frontline. I'm not particularly fond of Astrals. I know a lot of people are playing like this Astral Mage, Namzi. I do not have any success with this at all. I don't know what it is about this comp, but I cannot play this shit. I've gotten like 1/3 with it or something. I've had more success playing Assassin Reroll, bro. I was toying with this idea of what if you like reroll Rengar and you give him like Rage Blade, Bloodthirster, IE, and this is not good, by the way. Don't play this. But what I've been finding a lot of luck with is actually like earlier warrior boards. Yone, I think, is one of the most versatile carries in the game. He can hold almost any items. Full stop. He can hold Rage Blade. He can hold Giant Slayer. He can hold Archangels, and it actually does pretty well. The only thing he can't hold is mana generation items, but any DPS items he can pretty much hold. I think Yone is one of the most versatile mid-game units, early game, mid-game units, especially depending on what the Mirage is. Because like even if honestly this dude doesn't win you the fight, he's he's gonna kill like 3 people on the way. And you get in any other warrior in here as well, like even like a Wukong too, he might wrap around and kill something. Kind of like positioning like this, or you know, you really do have to pay attention on your positioning with melee units, obviously. But I think Yone Leona is actually just like a really powerful combo. Honestly, Yone can tech into just about any carry in the game, and this gives you a decent amount of flexibility because Guardians are also pretty flexible as far as what you can swap them out with. Their power is pretty much in being able to be 2-starred and have a decent amount of HP, but once you like find something that's better for it, like you can just like swap it out. So like if you have this Leona Nasus, like yeah, the Guardian shield is great, but if you suddenly like stumble upon, oh, say like Rakan's one of the best freaking units in the game. Okay, well, Rakan, easy. Like, and it's a 1-star Rakan. Okay, well, who cares? Now you might hold this on the bench if you're like level 4, but if you're like higher level, then yeah, this isn't like weird or anything like that. It's like so flexible, and this like goes really well into like a Seraphine comp, because now you suddenly have your dude items already, right? And so now you just have to make yourself a Shojin, pretty much. You're on the races. Like, you're not like done with the comp yet, but like it's a decent flex into it, because now you have your like any Graves items. And sorry if I'm rambling, I'm really not a great talker. But like, say you want to play like freaking Xayah, dude. This guy holds Last Whisper like a Giga Chad, bro. Huh? This guy holds Rage Blade, Last Whisper, like Titans, you know, or maybe not even Titans, like some other kind of like really strong item, like full itemized Xayah, right? And you just put it like right here. This is really good. And then Leona like holds any tank items that you would put on just about anyone. This is one of my favorite openers, especially if it's like Pirate's Greed, because Yone is like a really strong like carry all on his own, or if you have like an augment that's like healing. Celestial Blessings probably better. I also really like Thrill the Hunt. The only reason that this might be better than Thrill the Hunt is like sometimes Nasus might get the final hit or Wukong, so you might not necessarily get the HP like reset on Yone. And Yone will just kill so many units. He kind of falls off in stage 4, but like throughout the early game, this is fine. And then most of these games, you're going to want to go like level 7 and then like fully swap your board out and like reroll into something, or you're going to want to go level 8. And this guy can turn into anything. He can turn into a Graves. He can hold Twitch items, right? He can even hold like the double Rage Blade Runan's Xayah bullshit. He can hold Olaf items. He can hold Rengar items. This is every unit that Yone can hold items for and can be a potential like item carry for. This is like an infinitely flexible unit, in my opinion, right? And this is like every valuable unit in the game. Like, so say you're playing like your Twitch and you need like someone to hold like zippy items. Okay, all right, cool. Well, Titan's Resolve, Bloodthirster, Infinity Edge, right? This is not a bad Yone. I mean, it's not great, right? Don't get me wrong. It's not like best in slot Yone, but you're not playing Yone. You're never playing Yone like as your like main game carry. And then once you find Zippy 2, all right, cool. Well, let's just move these items over. Well, we're not playing Zippy, so no. What we're gonna play is Olaf. We suddenly found a bunch of Olafs. Oh, but the cool thing is we had like a Giant Slayer Runans here on Yone because Yone is cracked, right? Okay, well let's just move these items over to Olaf. Right. I think Yone is like a perfect item carry, so that's like who I've been mostly like revolving my early games, mid games around. Until I'm given like clear direction, and you just try and build like a strong front line around him, or maybe even like fit in like some assassins, right? I do also think that tempo is very valuable in this current meta. A lot of games you want to go like on 3-5 and just go level 7 and roll down all your gold, or 4-1, or even like 4-5 and roll down at level 8, which is what I prefer to do, especially if you find like an early like a good 2-star mid game carry such as like Yone or Twitch or even Xayah right now, or then there's also the potential of playing like your Seraphine comp, and this is like a 3-5 type angle if you're playing like with like the Graves, right? You want to find Graves before everyone else, so you're going to roll down at 3-5 and try and find at least one Graves, and you know, Seraphine 2, and then you're just going to econ up and reroll. Xayah definitely is a very high valuable item right now, just because like a lot of comps do not have like a strong front line, either that or they really value like backline access from like your assassins, and assassins being able to do damage for as long as possible. I think this is the reason that a lot of people maybe don't find success with Nyla. Nyla really requires Xayah in order to keep like off of the backline, as well as Xayah can really get a lot of use out of this because this will help keep you protected from like other Shyvanas or things like that. I also didn't really mention like the 4 dragon board. Everyone talks about the 4 dragon board. The amount of times that you're going to go for this comp and actually succeed is like 1 in 20, bro, if even that. I don't think it's necessarily like super great to like learn this comp. I think going for this comp is almost always like generally a bad idea. You would almost rather like just like fully cap out the board that you're currently running. Pretty much the only way you're ever going to go for it is if you have a very strong augment that allows you to push for it, such as like Cluttered Mind or Clear Mind, which I don't think you can get at the same time, by the way, but which is going to let you push level 9 like really quickly early on in the game, probably like in stage 5. And then you like play like probably like Ezreal early. Then you probably play like an Ezreal early game and then just revolve around him, giving him your Alshin items, and probably just like a bunch of Guardians. into like some kind of like AP holder like a Deja, and then you just like move items over to Aoshin once you hit level 9. These are probably the only ways you're ever playing this. If you're playing like on a Giga Chad win streak, right? Probably the rest of the lobby is so low on gold and so low on HP that they're not even going to hit this board, and you're better off just like, say you're playing like the Seraphine Graves board, you're probably just going to go for Graves 3 instead of trying to find some weird way to pivot into this. So that was one thought I had. I really do like this Dragonmancer board. Consider trying it out. And yeah, that's how I feel about the current meta. High tempo. It's really worth going like level 7 on 3-5. And rolling down to try and finalize your comp, assuming that you're playing like a 3-cost like base board. I do think AP is pretty strong, but I do think AD is being kind of undervalued. Olaf is still a pretty good unit in my opinion. So anyways, that's it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for liking the video. If you're watching this the day it came out, I'm actually probably streaming on YouTube right now, so consider coming in and chatting and saying hi and let me know what you thought. Anyways, I've been Murderup, and you guys have been amazing. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.